Hey y'all, I'm Megan and I'm gonna be sharing with you today tips on how to work with companies as what they like to call a micro-influencer. So I know there's like a lot of backlash against the word influencer, but it works as well as anything. Basically, a micro-influencer is somebody that has a social media following and has built a community, even if it's small. So what that can look like is somebody kind of like me, where I don't have, huge numbers on Instagram. I think right now I sit somewhere around like 2,200 on Instagram, and I don't have huge numbers on YouTube. I think right now I sit at about 1,800, and I've been doing this semi-consistently for about 2 years, sharing on social, creating content for YouTube. And the thing is, I have worked with some of my dream companies. Let me just shout them out real quick. This is not to brag, it's to show others that you don't have to have 10, 15, 100,000 people quote unquote like following you on Instagram or other social media platforms to do what you want to do and to work with companies you want to work with. A couple of years ago now, I started working with Lily Jade, who is fantastic. I have worked with 12 Little, who I love. I've worked with Petunia Picklebottom. I've worked with Lily Baby, Covered Goods. In the last couple of months, I've started working with BUGABOO, which is a company I have dreamt about working with for a long, long time. And I thought it would be impossible. My husband would be like, why don't you contact them? You've been doing really good work. They've reposted some of your stuff. And I was like, are you crazy? Like, are you crazy? That's just probably not in my wheelhouse. Like I don't have the kind of numbers they probably want. And guess what? They ended up contacting me. So, which is a one-off, which is a crazy situation. Nothing that I anticipated ever happening, but that's because I was not giving enough credit to myself, to the community I have been working to build, and to quality content and how rare actually quality content is. So let me look. I have 5 tips for y'all today written on my daughter's leftover artwork from school. If she sees this, she'll kill me. So we're just not gonna tell her, but I have tips on how to help you start, continue, get to work with companies that you admire, love, use regularly, and think that you'd be a really good match with. Don't mind as my lighting changes because it's a cloudy day. Tip number 1 is to use what you have. I don't think there's a company out there who's smart who ignores quality content coming at them for free. Definitely, that's not your end goal, is to sit around creating content for people for free or to do that without some kind of, kickback. But it is a hard thing for companies to ignore because they are paying megabucks to influencers with huge numbers that are giving them maybe a couple of photos here and there, one shout out, and that's it. So if you are creating content of a similar caliber with things you already have, they're going to take notice, or at least they should. That's on them if they have no business sense or don't know what to do with social media in this day and age. That's their problem. The point is to not go out and buy a whole bunch of stuff and also not sit around waiting for people to send you free stuff so that you can create content. That's crazy. What you need to do is look around your house, take notice of what you already use, and then start working with that. For example, 2.5 years ago, I owned a Lily Jade. I bought it used. It cost me $80, and I had taken some pictures with it for myself, things I wanted to remember, but I started including, don't mind my dog, I started including and tagging Lily Jade in those photos. This is years ago. I then really wanted to buy one of their bags new. I'd been using a used bag and I loved it. And I thought this is great. I'll sell a bunch of stuff and I'll save up and I'll buy a Lily Jade Megan. And then I bought that Lily Jade Megan and I got my butt to work. I started making videos, I took photos, I made sure they were good, even though I don't have a world-class setup. I now have better things than I did then for my videos and for photos, but you can do a lot with an iPhone, a whole heck of a lot with an iPhone, so start doing it is my first piece of advice. And then start tagging, start hashtagging, just keep in mind, just step 2, you can have all the great content in the world, but if you don't have somebody that you can connect with, if you don't have a community that you can like reach out to and see what they're interested in, if they aren't going to show up for you when you start working with a new company and you're super excited, that they won't share it and they're not into it, you could get paid to create content. There are lots of photographers who take photos of product. They work with companies and that's how they get paid. But if you're not interested in being a product photographer and you want to establish yourself as somebody that people can reach out to with questions, then you've got to work on that. And the weird dichotomy of that, like the weird back and forth of that is, like, people will know you're trying to build a community and you still have to be real, which is probably the hardest part. For me, I go back and forth. It's not so hard for me to be like vulnerable, but it's like that consistency. Sometimes like you just want to like post a picture, put up an emoji and like say like that's good enough, but like really taking the time to make sure you answer DMs, to make sure that you're staying up to date with your like comments, and then just working to like build up people who are doing similar things to what you're doing. Like all of that side work that isn't actually like content creation, which is what you would like to maybe do as a micro influencer, is going to be super important to proving to companies that you're worth working with. Tip number 3 is standing out. So this is all about like creating your own personal style and realizing that your style needs to also align with companies that you're interested in working with. Most companies are going to look for photos that are taken outside, have good lighting, and are high resolution, not blurry, and are also like they're product focused. So when you are looking to create content and get some kind of notice or a repost from a company, don't have 3 different companies featured in one post. Like, you don't even have to necessarily like call out in your caption what the company is, like tagging them may be enough to like get in their sites, but that kind of depends on the company. And the great thing is they put all that information out there for you. No, they don't like have a booklet or a flyer. They have an Instagram page and you can go through hundreds and hundreds of thousands of posts and see what they like, what they're interested in, what their posting schedule is. Do they post like a feature Friday on their story? Anything like that. And that is what is going to give you basically ammunition when you get reposted, when you get tagged several times, when you start showing up for them. That's how you get them to show up for you in tip number 4, which is the cold call, which I think a lot of people hope that companies are going to contact them, and it's just not probably going to happen because they have positions and jobs for people to sit down and maybe review who they're working with, but not necessarily going out and finding micro influencers to work with. That doesn't mean they're not interested. That doesn't even mean that they won't. It just means that there's probably not a position on their staff that is managing that. So most companies will have something like a hello at blah, 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 companyname.com. I'm gonna recommend you try not to use that. Your best bet is if you get reposted, if you get shared, if you get likes from that company, you're going to message them. And you're gonna message them and say, hey, I'm so glad you love this photo. Share that photo into the message if you can. Send that first, and then underneath that say like, I'm so glad that you all loved this post. Is there an email I can reach somebody at to talk about collaboration opportunities? That is how you will hopefully get a better email to cold call with. You're gonna send an email to that email that they hopefully give you. For the most part, I haven't had an issue getting that email. When you send that email, you're gonna wanna make sure that you've spell checked. You're gonna wanna make sure that it is full of the information about you, about where they can find you, if they can find you on Instagram, YouTube, wherever. Make sure that that is included. Put some personality into it. And then you're gonna do 2 things. You're going to share examples of the work that you have done for companies that are similar. Or if you have nothing like that, this is your very first cold call email, you're going to attach photos or a video that you've made about their product, or photos that you have tagged them in on Instagram, and you're going to attach those, the high res, good versions of those, to the email so that they have something to like give them a clue about the kind of content you're good at creating. Make sure it's good content. And then you're going to get super specific. And this is the part that's hard for a lot of women. It's hard to not feel like you're coming across too intense. But the thing is, they don't have time to come up with a plan for you. So when you email them, you're gonna come up with a plan for you, and you're going to get very specific. I like to say something like, okay, so now you think it's a good idea to collaborate. What do I want? And that sounds super straightforward, but it's the only way I've ever gotten good responses. And then I say what I want to create for them. And I don't say something generic like I'd like to create another YouTube video for you. I say like, I will create a video that does this, this, and this. Or like, I will host a giveaway for you, and here's exactly what that process would look like. If it's your very first cold call, if you're just getting started, like money's probably not on the table for a while. So just get really specific, and then in bold below that, I'll say like, hey, what do I want? Like, okay, what will I do for you is the first one, and then what do I want back? And I'll say I want, I need trade for the products that I've listed above so I can create content for that. I'll need product for the giveaway I want to host, so I need product sent to me so I can create content, and I need product that you'll send out at the end of the giveaway. Whatever it is, get specific, and then close it super nicely. You're not being mean. Like, there's nothing about being straightforward in an email in business that could come across like rude. If you feel like you're being direct, you feel like you're being yourself, if you feel like you're being specific, then realize there are companies out there that are going to want to work with you, and they need to know what you want back, and they need to know what you're gonna do for them, and they need to know it really, really clearly. That's tip number 4. Tip number 5 is be flexible about what companies want to work with you, but stay true to you, stay true to the brand you're trying to build. Do not take just anything that's given to you unless you feel like it's something you can stand by, that you would love, that you would share with a girlfriend. If it's not that, I would say even if you have 200 followers on Instagram and someone wants to send you something, that I would say no. Like, if it's not gonna be good for you overall, then it's not good for anybody. So that is tip number 5. Make sure that the things that you choose to go after, that you accept from people, make sense for you, your brand, what you're trying to build. That is a long video, but I think it's really important because as somebody who has spent the last 2 years trying to build something, as somebody who has spent the last few years creating content and getting to work with companies I love, this is how I've been able to do it. So if you like this kind of content, if this is interesting, if you have questions, if you want more information about any one of those tips I've shared, then you can message me on Instagram. I'm at Megan Kingsford over there. You can leave a comment in my comment section below, and let's talk about this because there is room for you to do what you want to do, even if you don't think you have the numbers to do it. There are companies that want to work with you and that are super interested in the quality content you create for the community that you've built and that you love. So that is my video for the day, and I am so excited to talk more about this kind of thing, and I'll see you guys soon in my next video. Bye!